Gomes.
Yo. What up, big dog?
What's shaking, brother?
Yo, the people were like, yo, can you get Cash back? Like, you know what I'm saying? Cash was on like 2 weeks ago, and then now you're holding him back for me. Like, can you get him back on the channel? I'm like, yo, Cash is busy, man. Cash got a lot going on. Cash is an important character. You know what I'm saying?
I appreciate it.
To my people watching, I did whatever it took to get Cash back. So, because Cash brings a value, man. The people want Cash to come back, so he's back. Cash, what's good, bro?
Mikey, what's happening, man? Thanks for having me back. I appreciate you. I appreciate all the love, too. I appreciate all the love from your viewers. I appreciate I love being here. Love talking to you.
Yes, sir, bro. How's things been shaking?
Man, it's been busy. Just got back from Phoenix, Arizona. I was out there about 2 days ago. Went out to Wholesale Sharks. Go support my man Ryan over Cash and Max Jimenez.
Okay.
Went out there, kind of hung out for the day. Came on back yesterday. Had about 100 people on a Zoom yesterday, talking all things creative finance, all things seller finance, and here I am today with you, brother. I'm excited.
Bro. Can you break that down a little bit? What'd you go over?
So yesterday, what we talked about was literally, why seller finance, why that strategy is important inside this changing market. Some of the things that you need to underwrite deals, right? Some of the skills that you need, some of the things that you don't need. We kind of had a little bit of a deep dive into kind of like the basics of seller finance. And then we got a little bit into underwriting a deal to show people what's really possible. Because when you start to look at it through a different lens, you can start to see the possibilities. And there's just a lot of opportunity around the corner.
I freaking love it, bro. I think a lot of people are freaking confused. What do you think?
Yeah, I think there's confusion in the space all day long, right? Especially if you're brand new. Even if you're a seasoned investor, right? You kind of come into the space and there's so many different strategies. There's so many different systems and processes that you could put in a place. And what I'm starting to realize more and more as I have more of these lives and more of these Zooms is that people really need to have a clear vision and goal for what they want to have happen in their real estate journey. And then I think once you define that, you can then go ahead and attach yourself to an acquisition strategy. You can attach yourself to people, because if you're not attaching yourself to people who've been in the business, who have been through the process, who can help you, I think you're going to absolutely fall behind. That's going to be super important. And once you identify that goal and you understand where you want to go, you can just kind of get into a strategy and learn the strategy. So the reason why I think seller finance, creative finance is the ultimate pivot is because not only does it thrive in this market, it thrives in every market. And with everything that's going on in the country and the rise in interest rates and the rise in basis points and the opportunity that's coming down the pipeline, I think creative is going to absolutely be head and shoulders above all of them.
You absolutely need somebody to essentially hold your hand through this stuff, especially when we're going through the fire in this new type of market. Here's what it's kind of like, right? Think about this. Let's just say you go out and you get shit-faced drunk and you end up at some house. You know what I mean? You don't even remember getting to the house. And you wake up and there's a freaking snowstorm. And there's snow up like 2 feet. And you don't even know where the hell your car is. You don't know nothing. But you have to shovel your way to go find your freaking car. You have no idea. It's going to be hard to go find your car because there's a bunch of snow everywhere. However, what happens if you didn't get drunk and you already knew the path, or somebody already shoveled the path for you?
Mm-hmm.
Right? It's easier once that path is shoveled. I look back to the beginning for me. I didn't have anybody. I just thought that, I'm a hustler, bro. I'll get it done. I know if I put money into something, it comes back. All of a sudden, what happened? I kept dumping money, and nothing was coming back, to the point where I was just like, you know what? I got two options. I'm either going to make this shit work after I found a mentor, right? This is my last shot in the dark. I'm going to find this mentor and I'm going to pay for it. Or I'm just going to go do some shit that I probably shouldn't do.
Yep.
Luckily, I picked the first.
Yep. So yeah, attaching yourself to people and kind of walking down a pathway, getting around people that are doing things at a higher level, making sure. I think that's super important for people, right? Because it's always the accountability part for everything that kind of makes it a little bit difficult for people. If you can kind of attach yourself to people who have been around, people who can show you the ropes, people who can kind of hold your hand and get down the path, I think it's worth kind of getting around people like that, for sure.
100%. People that actually understand like the path.
Yeah.
And so here's the basis of what I wanted to go over today. And what we were talking about is like there's two separate things that people get super confused about. People get confused about wholesale and creative finance.
Mm-hmm.
They're two separate things. Okay.
Yep.
Wholesale, what is wholesale? Wholesale is essentially sales and marketing.
Correct.
You can wholesale legitimately anything. I could wholesale this cup.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? You could literally wholesale anything. All wholesaling is going directly out to a consumer, right? Getting something under contract at a certain price, and you knowing in the back of your mind you have a buyer that would buy that at a marked up price than the price that you have it under contract for. That's all wholesaling is. Wholesaling is literally just sales and marketing.
Mm-hmm.
And you could do it with literally anything. You could do it with houses, you could do it with furniture, you could do it with warehouse stuff. Like you could literally do it with anything. Now, everybody says like creative finance, creative finance, creative finance is what you want to do, maybe over something like wholesale or something like that. And it gets all the wholesalers confused. And the wholesaler is like, wait, what the heck? I'm supposed to be doing creative finance and I'm trying to do wholesale and all these things. When in reality, these wholesalers just need to be educated on creative finance so they can put that tool in their tool belt so that they can go out and then market to a different network of people so that they can use this creative finance strategy in their belt while they're talking to sellers and stuff like that. Right. So essentially here's what you can do. You can go out to a seller and you can essentially pull a bunch of information from them, pull out their problems, pull out their pain, and realize that, hey, a cash transaction does not work in this thing, which everybody's thinking. Everybody's thinking, hey, I'm a cash buyer. I can close on your house quickly. I can do all the things that everybody can't because nobody can close as fast as me. Nobody gives a shit how fast you can close unless they absolutely need it. But I'll be honest, out of all the deals that I've ever done, there really wasn't too many cases where like I was pressed that I had to close on it super quick. Honestly, there really wasn't. It's just cash made the most sense because the house is in fucked up condition and you know what I'm saying? Like there's other reasons. But people use that just because it gets people a little bit more excited.
Mm-hmm.
Now, there's a couple other things that come into it. And this is where cash comes in. Cash, like this cash. There's another tool belt, right? All of a sudden you come to realize that cash does not work. So you put something else in your tool belt that you can write on the contract. Now you don't just have to say Mike is buying Betty's house for $100,000, which is like 40% of ARV, right? You don't have to say that. You can now say Mike is buying Betty's house for $200K. You just got to write the contract just a little bit different. Mm-hmm. And the cool thing is when you write it different, that brings in a whole another pool of buyers.
Such a good point.
Right?
Yeah, such a good point because to my point earlier about having a clear goal and a clear path, and if you go into a prospect, we are all looking for the same stuff. We're all looking for the same stuff, right? We're looking for the motivation, we're looking for the timeline, we're looking for the condition and the price. But if all you can do is have a mindset that you have to lock it up a certain way or you have to approach it a different way, having creative inside your arsenal will open up opportunities that didn't exist before you got into the conversation, right? So there is just so much opportunity in these deals that people are prospecting that they leave on the table, right? Like if they can't lock it up for cash, they leave it alone and go, oh, you know what? It's a dead deal. But if you understood creative, and creative's like an umbrella, right, Mike? Like there's so many different things that are under the creative strategy, that if you understood creative, and it's really very simple too, because I think people, I want to make a point here. Like people think of these strategies like there's certain channels that you go to get to a certain point where you're buying the house. The reality is that real estate is simple, very simple. It's not easy, but it's simple, right? You're looking to acquire a property, and when you acquire that property, right, there's an exit strategy for the property, but this is the legal game, right? So all creative is really is understanding the process, right? The home buying process, the loan process, all these things that allow you to have these different tools in your tool belt when you're prospecting. So having a clear goal along with you going into a property with a certain mindset, hey, like I'm going to gather the information, like Mike just said, I'm going to gather all of this information. It's you're not just gathering it for wholesale. You're not just gathering it for seller finance. You're not just gathering it for creative. You're going to gather the information, and then if you understand the process of home buying, home selling, the loan process, you can then offer a solution, because it's all about offering solutions, right? We're not going to convince anybody to sell us their house, right? We are problem solvers first, and then we're sales second, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's a good point. Very good point.
Why do you think attorneys get paid so much money?
Attorneys get paid so much money to protect. It's all about control and protection in real estate, right? So you'll hear people say all the time, like it's not what you own, it's what you control, right? And attorneys, and I say this all the time in my training, like money is my protection, time is my protection. Attorneys get paid large sums of money to make sure that all of the legal aspects are done correctly, which is what you should kind of know as a real estate investor. Again, right? You should know some of the legal stuff because you're operating at a very high legal level when it comes to anything out here, right? And real estate being the biggest. But they get paid big money to protect my interest in a property, your interest in a property, the seller's interest in the property, right? All these different things.
Okay. Yeah. Essentially, what you're saying is they get paid so much money because they know how to solve every single party's problems in the right manner that protects everybody equally.
Yep.
And because they know that, think about this. If an attorney came into a wholesale business and they also were good at sales, because you have to understand how to be a good salesperson and negotiate and understand psychology and everything, right? A lot of attorneys don't just do that. They're just black and white. They just know the legal stuff, which is cool. That's why salespeople like myself and you go out to attorneys and gather the information that we need. We pay them to do that. And then we go take their information that they gave us and we go make money with their information, essentially. AKA we go take the problems that they gave us to solve and we go solve somebody else's problem. It's literally, it's almost like information arbitrage, right?
Yeah.
Really, that's really what it is. Yep. So could you imagine if an attorney had the understanding of how to be a salesperson and psychology and everything when it came to going on a seller's appointment or something? Could you imagine all the tool belts that they can solve? Like all the tools they would have in the tool belts that they could use to solve problems. They would convert at like a freaking 90% rate on all their appointments.
That's what most of the hedge funds are made up of.
Mm.
Made up of really good attorneys who understand the process. It's a group of guys, right? And they're all principals inside that company. And those are the guys that can protect the interests of the investors. So it makes it very easy for them to raise money and bring money into a fund. Now, whether they own the fund, I don't know if there's any kind of fiduciary kind of responsibility and legal stuff on what they can and cannot be a part of, but they are inside those groups, right? Whether as a partner, a general partner, a limited partner, an advisor, somebody who's coming into the group to advise and to educate the investors on what's going to happen here when you bring your money into it and we go buy up swaths of property. We're here to protect the investors.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So yeah, they exist. They are out there. And those are the guys and those are the groups that are operating at a tremendous level, buying up property at a big rapid rate,
100%. So it's so interesting. I look back to all these conversations that I've had with my attorneys and stuff, like when structuring creative deals or even just structuring cash deals in the right way to protect all parties. And I'm like, holy crap, I'm paying them for this information that they're giving me that the seller will never be able to get, right? If they don't have access to my attorney, right? They don't have that connection. They probably don't have the funds to pay for that. They don't understand that. I'm taking their information and literally putting it in a contract. Mm-hmm. And making money from that contract because I am information, like I'm pretty much arbitraging information from the attorney to my consumer. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? So literally, I look back to it. Everybody that has taught me creative finance or even wholesale and whatever, the actual structure of deals, I realized this information actually comes from attorneys. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So think about it. If somebody like myself or somebody like Kash has dumped all this money and time and energy into, talking to these attorneys and having these conversations and going through the things and going through problems, why would you not just like skip the attorney conversation? Because I'll tell you, talking to the attorneys is like pulling teeth. Like they're not available sometimes when you need them. They cost a lot of freaking money, much more than mentorships cost. Like I've spent much more on my attorneys than I have on mentorships. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. Why would you not just go to somebody that has already been through all the things? Yep. Because what I did in the beginning is I was like, nah, screw it. Like I don't need all the mentors and I don't need all these things. Let me just go to an attorney because they know what the heck they're talking about. However, that probably cost me much more money than a mentorship did.
Yeah, I think what a mentorship will do is it'll get you around people, trainings, mentorships, masterminds. It'll get you around people that have done exactly what you just said, right? Spent the money to get into attorneys and then compartmentalize all of it and put it in order for you where you get into it and you're like, okay, now I understand why I have to walk somebody through a forbearance agreement when I come into a foreclosure, or why it might be a good idea to try to go through a COVID forbearance, or mm-hmm. what it's like to make up the arrears on property, or what it's like, right? So there's different contracts for different things. And I think when you get into a mastermind like that, what happens is, or even get around people that have been in it, they can kind of put you, again, lead you down the pathway of saying, hey, listen, this is why you're doing what you're doing, as opposed to looking at a strategy that you believe can get you wealthy to only come up at a dead end because you don't know how to negotiate it.
Right.
Mm-hmm. And that's why creative, again, is so important, is because you get into these conversations and you can negotiate your way through the conversation as well as for the property.
So let's just say Mike has a connection with a wholesaler, right? Because Mike buys creative finance deals. Where does Mike find a lot of his creative deals? Maybe on market and maybe real estate agents, but a lot of them probably come from wholesalers as well, correct?
I just bought one from a wholesaler.
So maybe that wholesaler ran into a problem, right? And contacted Mike. I don't know what happened on that particular deal, but a lot of the times when people come to me with problems, like wholesalers will go out and they'll go create a problem, meaning they'll go talk to a seller and they'll figure out a problem to solve. And they come to me and they're like, hey, I don't know what the heck to do here. How do I structure this, right? To these wholesalers that are coming to Mike and saying, hey, I have all these opportunities. I'm talking to all these sellers. What's some advice that you would give them before going into the appointment? When thinking about creative, maybe they had a conversation with the seller and they in their mind, they're like, dang, I don't think Kash is going to work here.
That's a good question. So ultimately, you need to know a little bit about the strategies in order to do it. But here's what I tell people all the time, right? So a really great thing to do is that if you're not educated on the strategy and you go in as a wholesaler and all you're thinking about is locking it up at a discount, what creative provides a solution towards the objection of money. And money is always the biggest component, right? When it comes to real estate, people want to know how much they're going to make, how much they're going to net, how much money we can save, all of these different things. So if you're not educated on the actual strategy and don't know how to kind of pursue it, there's one question that wholesalers could ask that could completely change the trajectory of their entire business.
So you could even probably, I don't even know what this question is going to be, but you could probably have this conversation before you even go on the appointment if you're doing on-site appointments.
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely.
What is it?
So if you are faced with an objection, a money objection, and they're like, you know what? No, I'm not going to sell my house at 60 cents on the dollar. No, I'm not going to sell it at 70 cents on the dollar. I don't like your lowball offer. I don't like whatever. You literally, with one question, and you don't need to know anything else. After this question, you can then take the phone and say this. All right. So I'm going to tell you what you're going to say after it, and then I'll give you the question. Okay. So after the question that you ask, all you have to say is this. Amazing. I'm going to bring this back to my office, whether you have an office or not.
Mm-hmm.
Amazing. I'm going to bring this back to my partners, whether you have a partner or not. Amazing. I'm going to get right back to you. And the one question you could ask is this. Mr. or Mrs. Seller, if I gave you what you were asking for, how much time would you give me to pay it off?
Ooh, hold on. We got to unravel that a little bit.
Sure.
Because the beginning, why are you going back to your partners, or why are you going back to the team, or whatever the case is, just to start?
Yeah, so I'm going back. Again, this is for people who don't understand creative, don't understand seller finance, don't understand subject to, don't understand hybrids.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't understand it, rather than even if you didn't understand it, right, you could just ask that one question, and that one question would then put you in a position to get around Mike Gomes, to get around guys like me, reach out to somebody.
Ooh, yeah.
Right? The real estate community is so incredibly helpful. And again, attaching your rope to Mike's rope and saying, hey, bring me down the path, right? So don't let it go. So again, this is for people who don't understand creative. For people who do understand creative, guess what? The question is the exact same question.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so to break down the first thing, the reason being, so somebody that doesn't understand creative, right? But they're like, dang, I'm talking to the seller and I just know that they want too high of a price. I'm never going to be able to get this thing locked up on a cash deal, right? But I was listening to Kash's live earlier, and he said something about creative finance, and he said something that we can give the seller a price that they want just over time. I don't really get it though, right? So that the first thing that you just said, hey, ask this question to gather some information so that I can take some bits and pieces out of the conversation I have with the seller and bring it to a professional that has done these types of deals before.
Mm-hmm.
Now I can bring the professional some information that makes more sense rather than just saying, "Hey, I have a seller who isn't going to work on a creative deal. Can you help me structure it? I mean, as a cash deal, can you help me structure it as a creative deal?" And now Cash is sitting here like, "Dude, what the heck you want me to do this? Like, I need more information than that."
Yeah. Uh-huh.
And so essentially, what Cash is saying is this question is going to pull a ton of information out of the seller that you can then go bring to a professional to help you structure the deal.
And why that question?
Mm-hmm.
Right? Why is it that question? It's because if we take the pillars, we take motivation, timeline, condition, and price. The motivation and the timeline are the most important pillars. You don't even have to bring a guy like me condition and price. You have to bring me timeline and you have to bring me motivation. So if you ask the question, hey, if I gave you what you wanted, how much time you would give me to pay it off? How much time would you give me to pay it off? And you come to a guy like Mike Gomes or a guy like myself and go, hey, I've got a guy who's willing to give me time to pay it off. You've got a deal.
That's good.
You've got a deal.
Yeah, 100%.
Where most wholesalers calculate it and go, well, if the numbers don't make sense and I've got to do this and I got to calculate, war chest and percentage of ARV and what's my max allowable offer. It's like, whoa, I just told you real estate was simple. It's about motivation and timeline.
Yeah.
And when we get those two, and you ask a question like that, it makes it very, very easy to move forward in the negotiation because you're the only guy that's asking that question, or you're the only girl or woman who's asking something that you normally wouldn't ask, right? You're like, hey, would you give me some time? You go, time? I never thought about it. Maybe I would give you some time. What are you thinking? Well, I'm not sure yet. Let me get right back to you. I'm going to bring it to my office or bring it to my partners or bring it to my financial partners, and I'll get right back to you. And then you reach out to Mike G, or you reach out to somebody like me, and we'll ask you questions as a new investor and say, hey, so did you get this, and this? And if you didn't get this, and this, we're going to send you back. You're going to get hands-on training just by reaching out to people. We're going to send you back, get you to gather more information so that you can understand why we are asking for that information. And then once all the information is in front of you, it's then let's get into underwriting and structuring.
I love it.
Simple.
So yes, that's so freaking good. Now let's talk about the psychology behind why you would go back to a partner. Let's just say you understood creative finance and you've been through Cash's course or something like that. And you're like, hey, dude, I get this creative finance shit now. I get how to structure a seller finance deal. Cash taught me the things, right? But it's still important for me to go back to my partners or go back to the other office or whatever the case is, right? Why is that important?
One, it gives you time to do your due diligence to make sure that you have all your ducks in a row so that when you're going. Now, I've been in the game for a minute, so I can do this off the top of my head. Not many people can do it live in front of somebody, right? So by bringing it back to somebody, whether you know it or whether you don't know it, it gives you time to make sure that your numbers are correct, because the way you structure your numbers, the way you identify what needs to happen inside the property and inside the deal is very different from wholesale, right? On seller finance, we work on yield. We're not looking at we're looking at different numbers, not more complicated numbers. We're just looking at different numbers. The second piece of the puzzle is that not only does it give you time, it also positions you. I know a lot of people who don't like to negotiate live. So by bringing it back to an underwriter or bringing it back to an office, bringing it back to somebody who is going to kind of not only make the decision. I guess what it does is it kind of positions you as the one who doesn't have to make all of the decisions, right? Like you could bring it back to somebody where I believe it kind of positions you as more of a professional, right? You're not just, even though people like the idea, and this kind of ties into the psychology, is that people love the idea of just dealing with your everyday average Joe. There are some people that prefer to deal with a company, right? A professional, reputable company. So coming back and bringing it back and giving yourself some time to understand the numbers is going to be key to your success.
100%. I do this on every single one of my deals. I'm going on an on-site appointment here in like a couple hours. And I was explaining to the wholesaler who brought me the lead. Wholesaler brings me the lead. She's like, "Hey, we're not too far off for a cash offer. We're almost there. We're like $25,000 off." I'm like, "Okay, this is this is cake." But I told the wholesaler, I'm like, "Hey, here's the expectations that are going to go into the appointment." Right. And I'm just telling her how I work my on-site appointments. But I got to the point where I go back to the car and I talk to my lender, or I talk to my partner, or whatever the case is. Why do I do that? It positions me in a position where I can now be on the seller's team. And I'm like, yo, my he's a stickler. Like I'm trying to get him up. These interest rates are freaking killing us and everything. Like I'm trying my hardest. I'm going to bat for you, but he's just tough to deal with. Now it's me and the seller versus my partner.
Yep.
And now the seller's like, "Oh yeah, let's go. Like, please, can you get him up? Can you get him up?" And once we come to terms, they're happy about it because they feel like they won. They feel like me and the seller, we're on the same team. We won against my partner.
I want to bring you back a second. When that person says, "Can you get him up?" You've already won.
Yeah.
Right? You've already won. You're like, okay, I'm with them. They're with me. They're now asking me to get them up. Mm-hmm. You're in control of that.
Yeah.
You've won.
Hold on. There's some people watching this right now. This took me months to figure out. Once I implemented this in my business, my conversion rate probably skyrocketed 2x, 3x. I was like, oh my God, this is so much easier. I've been trying to pose as like the big head honcho business owner. You know what I'm saying? Like trying to negotiate in live. Oh, well, maybe would you do 260? Would you do 270? And I'm just not getting deals done, bro. You know what I'm saying? You don't get deals done that way. Once I started implementing this shit, I was like, holy crap, my conversion rate is going up. I promise you, I didn't find this stuff on YouTube. We're on YouTube right now. I didn't find this information on YouTube when I was starting. I don't even know if it's out there on YouTube. Maybe it is. Maybe somebody has posted this. This is stuff that I've learned in masterminds, to be honest. And if somebody came in and heard this, they'd be like, yo, what the heck, bro? Like, why?
Yeah. I get it.
See what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So take this value and literally implement it. And when you go implement this, I want you to come bring it to us and be like, holy crap, that was really dope. Not even stuff that I learned in masterminds, but this is just stuff that I just learned from like going through the things. Mm-hmm. Like actually doing the things. Like I'm literally running into problems. Like, dang, why isn't this seller like taking my offer? And just trying different things. Like it's just taking things that I've learned from masterminds, taking things that I learned from everything, going through the business and putting them all into one, and we're giving it to you on YouTube. That's the crazy thing. I really, really wish that like a year or two ago when I was starting this business, I had somebody grab me by the neck and be like, no, you need to say this. People out there that know all this stuff.
Yeah. I was on a Zoom last night. There were, I don't know, almost 100 people on the Zoom. And somebody goes, hey, can you give me like the actual blueprint of like what you're asking and all this stuff and going back? And to make it simple for people, right? So in the information, so there's a couple of different parts to all of it, right? But on the information gathering, it's the who, what, when, where, and why of all of it, right? You gather all that information. And then once you gather all that information, just like Mike said, you bring it back to the office or you bring it back to the underwriter, right? And now you, just like Mike said, you are now on the seller's team, and it's you two against the underwriter. And it's you two against the back office. And Mike's going to work his tail off to get the seller whatever it is. And from there, sky's the limit. So when a seller says, hey, well, can you go back to him and see if you can do this or you can do that? Think about the psychology behind that. They go, wait a minute. Like, I'm already going to sell it to him. Like, I know I'm going to sell it to him. Now, how much money is he going to get me when he goes back to the office? Right? So Mike's on the seller's team, even though he is the buyer, and he brings it back. And it's all about leveraging information, gathering the information, leveraging the information, coming up with a solution, solving a problem, and then selling it second, right?
This isn't new.
No.
Salespeople and they've been doing this shit forever. I was at a car dealership, and this is probably like a year ago. I was looking to get a new car, okay? And homeboy is structuring the terms, like pulling my credit and all these things. And he keeps going back to the head honcho, to the boss.
Yep.
I knew what the hell was going on. I'm a salesperson at this point. But while I was sitting in the chair, I was sitting there like, yo, I understand like the psychology behind this stuff, because as the prospect right now, I kind of feel it like, yo, come on, dog, give me a good payment. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, exactly. But here's what's most interesting about that. And I love that you have a story like that, because I've got a similar story in a car dealership. Exactly. And it ties into creative finance. Is when you walk into that dealership, I got to ask you, when you walked in there, did you walk in there with an amount that you'd like to spend per month and an amount that you would like to spend on the car?
Yeah.
Okay.
Maybe.
All right. So tell me, like, what was the mindset when you walked in there? When you walked in there, were you going to buy or were you just going to look?
I'm a little bit different, bro. I'm like the worst prospect. As far as like getting sold, I'll get sold in a freaking heartbeat. You know what I'm saying? So I'm the worst prospect to talk about this stuff. Here's what happened.
Why were you in the dealership?
Because I had a rental, right? And the rental was an Audi, and I'm like, this shit's fire. I need this shit ASAP.
Okay.
I went to Audi the next day.
Okay.
It's a little bit different. That's why I'm telling you, I'm the worst prospect. You bring me in any freaking store, and a salesperson comes to me, I'm just like, all right, bro, where's the shit? Yeah, here's my car. You know what I'm saying? Like, okay. I'm the worst. But actually, because I wouldn't go in the store unless I knew I was going to buy something. Does that make sense?
Okay, so
like I'm an impulsive type of fucking guy.
All right, but either way, you got into something you liked.
Mm-hmm.
You got into something you like. You went to Audi, and you were prepared. You were prepared for any kind of outcome, right? Like if you went in there and you heard it, and you heard the deal was good or whatever, you were getting into the deal, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, but before you got into the deal, whatever got you into the dealership in the first place, before you got into the deal, while you're there, if the dealer came out and said this car's $2,000 a month, what would you have said?
Probably I'm all set.
You still would have paid it $2,000 a month, but then, man, I should be selling you cars. All right, so
I'm like, nah, dog, come on, you're raping me. I know, I understand
right. Like if you go in there, and he came out and he said, hey, this car's $2,000 a month, where maybe you were looking at advertisements, the night before on Google, and you're checking out the Audi special, right? And they had $500 a month payments, and you walked in there and he said, you know what, this car's $2,000 a month. You would have said, listen, dude, like I just checked this thing on Google last night. It was $500 a month. Talk to me about some of the specials you have, whatever it may be. So when you go in there, whether you're thinking about it or not, and whether you get sold or not, you're thinking about what that car is going to cost you per month. That's kind of like the mindset. Like, oh, if I can afford, or maybe not for you, but for 95%.
No. You're 100% right. I'm just saying, like me as a prospect, I'm like the impulsive guy that just buys. But anyways, I do have that in mind. Like, hey, before I'm going, I'm looking at what these Audis are selling for online and what the payments are every month. So to that point, if I'm looking in online and saying $500, and I'm asking my homies that have Audis, and they're saying $500 is the payment, or what I'm saying, it was a little bit more than that, but they're saying that payment is some sort, and then I go to the Audi dealership, and homeboy tells me it's $2,000 a month, right?
You're walking out the door.
I'm like, yeah, all right, bro. Like, I'm gonna go find somewhere else because you're playing me boo boo the fool.
Okay, now when you walked into the Audi dealer, walk me through the process when you walked in.
When
You walked in, the salesman came out, saw you, sized you up, looked at you. He said, all right, right? Made a judgment on you.
Yeah.
Made a judgment call on you, right?
100%.
Made a judgment call, looked at you and said, hey, man, how you doing? You're like, good, man. How you doing? He's like, what brings you into Audi today? And you're like, oh, I'm just whatever. And maybe you're serious. Maybe you're like, yo, I had this rental yesterday and I love this car and I want to see what you got going on.
Mm-hmm.
And the first question, whether you remember it or not, that he asked you is he said, where do you want to be per month? What kind of payment you comfortable with per month?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
That's the first thing he said to you.
Yep.
He didn't talk to you about interest rate. He didn't talk to you about term. He wanted to know what you were comfortable with.
Right.
And then you gave him the number.
Mm-hmm.
And you said, hey, I want to be at $500 a month or whatever the hell it may be, whatever, hypothetically. Right? And now he's looking at the car and he's bringing you around the cars. And he's going, yeah, this car is $500 a month. This Audi over here, though, this one has the shoes on it and it's got the tint on it and it's got the spoiler and the sound system and everything else. And this one is $650 a month. And you went like this. Man, I wanted to spend $500, but man, for an extra $150 a month, I can get this thing.
Yeah.
Right? And then he went back. To the office.
Mm-hmm.
Came back and went back and forth. And you were already bought in. You're like, man, I hope this guy's going to get me a good deal. He comes back. He gives you the number, which I guarantee was more than what you were thinking about spending.
100%.
You said yes. You never even asked about the interest rate because all you're thinking about is what it's going to cost you per month.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Then he gives you the interest rate on the paperwork and you're like, shit, it's 7% or 6% or 5%, whatever it may be, right? But even at that point, you don't care because it's all about what you're paying per month. That's 100%. Exactly what creative finance is.
100%. This is so good. So good. So here's what it's equivalent to. It's equivalent to asking the seller, well, you're the bank. What do you want every month?
There you go.
And then going back and structuring the terms based on what they want every month. And when you realize what they want every month is too high, you say, hey, we're going to have to give you, actually, no, you don't even say that first. You talk about all the things like the upgraded car. Hey, this thing has a new stereo, it has new tires, it has whatever. AKA, this is going to save you on taxes. This is going to get you a higher payment. I mean, a higher purchase price. This is going to, you know what I'm saying? You're not going to have to be a landlord anymore, like all those things. However, the payment is lower. That's the equivalent to, however, the payment is now $650, not $500. And you're like, all right, shit, but you got me now. Yep. So good.
Yep. Perfect example. A car example of walking into a car dealership. It's just doing it in reverse for you. To your point, understanding what they need, understanding what they want, understanding what you need, and understanding what you want, and negotiating all of the components of the deal to fit whatever you want to have happen.
So good. So good. So freaking good. Can you guys put some ones in the chat?
We got some people on here watching today?
Hell yeah.
How many people?
If you guys are listening, throw some ones in the chat for Mike, for Kash. because that was some gems. This is amazing, bro.
Oh, we got some people in here, man. I didn't see the chat. I didn't see the comment.
Yeah, man.
Oh, we got some people in here. Rob's in here. Arnulfo's in here.
Rob is the guy, bro. He's coming to one of my fix and flips to help me out.
I'm so happy you all connected with him.
He's the man, bro.
Claudio says this is a great topic. The best part about creative deals is that they're always wholesale able, even when there is no spread up front for a fee, because you can get paid across time, also overtime. Time is money. Max Jimenez says, "What's up, Cash Money Mike? Just shared this live in my private Facebook group. Awesome. We appreciate you, Max. Max, if you're not connected to Mike G, you need to get connected to Mike G. He's another badass. He's a good buddy of mine."
Yeah, Max, let's connect, bro. I'm gonna follow you on IG. I might actually already follow you on IG. I'll shoot you a message, bro.
Yeah, great guy. So, hey, this brings us back to like early on, right? Like early on in this live, we were talking about getting around the right people and being surrounded by like-minded people, right? Even to today, like somebody who's been in the game for a while, like myself, somebody who's been in the game for a while, like Mike, Max, and Ryan, and all these other guys, we are always looking to surround ourselves with people who know things that we don't know, right? Who know things that we can learn from. So it's so important to get around the right people. I cannot stress that enough. Have a straight, very clear goal, get around the right people. And on something very, very simple like this, where here we are talking about car dealerships, and you can tie it into creative finance, something on the real estate end that could bring your business through the roof, is just an amazing thing. So appreciate you all being here. This is cool.
Yes, sir. When you break it down, bro, all businesses are the same. Like really, when you break it down, they're all the same things.
Yeah, 3 cups, right?
Literally, those 3 cups. You got to prospect, you got to generate leads, and you got to convert.
Yeah.
If you understand how to do all those 3 in that specific business, you're gonna make money.
Yep.
Mike, I appreciate you coming on here, dog.
Yo, man, I appreciate you. I appreciate you having me. I'm happy to come back any single time and talk to you all about creative. Anytime your viewers want to get into like the nitty gritty of it, we'll get into the nitty gritty of it. I'd love to be back.
Let's go. If you are not following Cash on Instagram, it's Cash Money Mike _ on IG. Shoot him a message. Get connected with this cat. We appreciate y'all watching. Please like the video, subscribe to the channel. Let's go, baby. Hey, another seller finance wholesale video coming up with me and Cash coming up here in the next week or so. So stay tuned for that. We appreciate y'all.
Let's go.